All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another ride, y'all. Gavin Richard presents. I'm driving right now, so give me a moment. I'm just backing out of my driveway. Hope everybody's doing great this morning. So, hold on a second. Hope everyone's having a good Sunday. It's a beautiful day out here in New Orleans. New Orleans is a little chilly, but I like the weather like this, especially this week of Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone across the country. There's plenty to be thankful for, even if you are not where you are. If you don't have what you want, just keep in mind that you're alive, and that's a blessing. So thank God for that. Whoever you are, wherever you are, thank you for watching the show. I know I'm recording this. I usually go live with these things, but I don't know what it is. YouTube acts funny with this stuff. So at any rate, I wanted to talk about something that was going on in the news that didn't get a chance to discuss really too much. Judge Joe Brown, who's a friend of the show, he's a friend of mine, kind of a mentor a little bit because he's been in the legal field for 40 plus years. He's retired now, and he has a wealth of knowledge that we can't get from other people, that a lot of people don't have, because he's seeing things pre-integration, he grew up in Los Angeles during Watts riots. He saw Dr. King get assassinated, John F. Kennedy get assassinated as a young man, as a kid. He saw Bobby Kennedy being assassinated, Malcolm X, all of these things, the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Panthers. He lived through all of that. Before he was an attorney, I know he was a substitute teacher to pay his bills while he was in law school. He did a lot of things, to help himself. And he's very successful as a daytime judge, as most people know. Well, at any rate, Judge Joe, in this past week, had been in the news because Charlemagne the God and DJ Envy and Angela Yee over at the Breakfast Club basically dissed the judge over some comments that he made with regards to Harriet Tubman being on a $20 bill. Now, I was listening to the interview that he did it was about 2 weeks back on his show. Valerie Denise Jones, I believe, is the producer of the Judge Joe Brown show. He does a weekly podcast. And they were commenting, talking about the appearance of Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill, and Judge Dr. Umar Johnson obviously, was in favor of it. Judge Joe, not so much. And Judge Joe's position, I'm just paraphrasing, but from what I gathered, was that a black man should be on a bill before a black woman, and to not have a black man even considered to be on the $20 bill, but to have Harriet Tubman put on there before a person like a Frederick Douglass or a Denmark Vesey, as Judge was putting it, or even even any black, Thurgood Marshall and so forth, he felt was an insult to the black race. And his position on that, and obviously Umar Johnson was against that, was that men are basically the leaders in society. Men make the world go round, and that men are the hunters and protectors of the world and, of their families. Every race thinks of their men first before they think of their women, or before they think of children. So you think of a man that leads society. When I think of, and I was trying to understand what the judge was saying, and I did get what he was trying to convey, because the first thing that any society looks at when we think of our military, let's just give that an example. Yes, there are men and women in the military, but at one point, as you know, it's always been the men that have been on the front lines. It's always been, of course, during a draft, the draft was young men at the age of 18 who were physically fit, mentally stable, that were able, well, maybe not mentally stable, but men, it was for all males. And of course, I think recently they removed that draft, the selective service requirement that they had in the United States. But that's because men, we're thought of being, I'm just going to say it, more powerful than women. Structurally, we are. Physically, we are. We are bigger than men. That's why, when it comes to these domestic violence situations, they always tell men, you should never hit a woman. You can't place your hands on a woman. And I know sometimes some women have beat the crap out of their men. That's just real too. But neither here nor there. The Breakfast Club caught wind of what Judge Joe Brown said, and they didn't like it. And not only the Breakfast Club, but Joe Madison, the Black Eagle, he has a show on Sirius XM. He was condemning the judge's comments, and Judge Joe Brown didn't like it, and he called them out. He called them moist and Pop-Tart. Breakfast Club, he challenged all of them to a debate on his show or either their show. One thing about the judge, and I know him personally, is that he's not going to back down from a challenge. He's a guy, he's going to state he states what his opinions is. He shoots from the hip. He tells you what like it is. And Charlemagne, what I didn't like that Charlemagne the God has said a lot, and let me say this, I had a lot of respect at one point for Charlemagne, but a lot of people, more and more, even from some people I talked to, are starting to not really care for the dude now at a Breakfast Club. And I think it goes back to the interview, even most recently that he did with Malik Yoba and those three transvestites on the Breakfast Club, where if you listen to the debate, or not even a debate, it wasn't even a debate. I don't even know if it was an interview, because they just let them talk over them and didn't even ask tough questions, especially, and I've already covered this before, when someone said something about how it wasn't natural to be a woman. David Johns, I think, made a comment, something along those lines, when Malik Yoba said how women feel this is natural, and he said, no, there's nothing natural about that. And even the only woman on the panel, Angela Yee, who's sitting there looking at it, didn't even comment. So I remember stuff like that. And a lot of people, I think, it rubbed, and if you go to look at the video, sorry about that. If you look at the video, a lot of the women, a lot of the likes and dislikes were on the Breakfast Club. I think that was the most disliked video that they ever had. I've never seen that from Breakfast Club. Usually their interviews get like thousands of likes, 100,000 likes to if they got 2 million viewers. But on that interview in particular, it was one of the most disliked videos in the on their channel. And I think that a lot of people saw or got upset over the agenda that they're trying to push over there. Because even when you watch the Breakfast Club, and I noticed behind, I think it's Charlemagne the God, he has the little rainbow flag that sits behind him. So it's clear that they're there to push, certainly push their own agenda. And remember the thing with Lil Duval a couple years earlier, where Lil Duval said he would kill any person. If you told me you were a woman and you tricked me and you really were a man and I found out about it, I would kill you, because it's like rape. And I understood what he was saying, but of course the LGBTQ community were coming out against Charlemagne. If you remember, they were coming out against Lil Duval, talking about his comments were transphobic and he was doing this and that. But I understood what he was trying to say. It wasn't that he was saying I'm going to kill a transgender. He was saying I'm going to kill somebody for lying on me, and that person just happens to be transgender. That's what he was essentially getting at from what I read. But going back to this thing with Judge Joe Brown, and those guys, black media in general right now, especially on the radio, is starting to become obsolete. A lot of people, of course, people still listen to the Breakfast Club. People still going to listen to, the radio as far as when they go into work. And, you have, satellite radio now. Everyone can get on YouTube and subscribe to a channel. Hope you subscribe to mine if you see this video. And they can actually and honestly get a different perspective that they're not going to get in the media. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are even frustrated with someone like Stephen A. Smith, because he is on ESPN. You're the highest paid news, you're one of the highest paid sports anchors or sports commentators. Someone that's got recently paid, I think, $40 million for 5 years, meaning he makes $8 million a year. And you didn't even know that Colin Kaepernick's waiver was substantially different, and you keep harping on the fact, well, he didn't participate in the warm-up, he didn't participate for the tryouts, when it looked like if he had signed that waiver, he would have forfeited all of his rights to file a lawsuit against the NFL. He would have forfeited everything, because apparently just for a workout, that's not a guarantee. Even in a waiver, standard waiver, it's not a guaranteed of employment contract. It's not. Nothing is ever guaranteed. I tell people that. I tell my clients that when they say they want to go to a jury trial, what the chances are, it's 50-50. That's just the bottom line. You either gonna win or you're gonna lose. And of course, you take a risk with things, but and in all stuff, but in seriousness, I could give you an exact probability. If the evidence is that great against you, then you're obviously best bet. You would think that it's not looking good unless you can pull some type of miracle off, or unless we got something substantial that can counterbalance that. You have the scales of justice. And I think that Kaepernick, and Stephen A. Smith, they were clearly, he is not a person that likes to admit he's wrong unless he gets his balls cut off in front of him by the white power structure at ESPN. Because clearly when he was on ESPN and he had that situation with Michelle Beadle, he had no problem apologizing to her when he was talking about domestic violence. But he sure as hell wouldn't apologize to the black community when he defended Mark Cuban and his comments about a black man in a hoodie and a white man with his tattoos. So you have to pay attention to fools like this and stop looking at them for their credibility. And even with the Breakfast Club, I've started to find them to be very quite foolish and buffoonery. When they had Hillary Clinton on and they're talking about hot sauce, when they have Kamala Harris on and they're talking about how you smoked weed, who you smoked weed with, and not dealing with very serious issues. If they're not pushing a black agenda, then we're not giving them our vote. That's the way it should be. If you're not going to do anything for your people, if you're not going to help blacks in particular, and you only show up when it's time for, the polls, when you need us, and then we come out for you and we get nothing, then we're not going to be, then where does that leave us? Why should I support you? So, with Judge Joe, and I mean, he's been on Kamala Harris and Cory Booker and all of those other guys too, because all politicians, because he feels that the Democrats really don't have a strong candidate to beat Donald Trump, and really have not promoted any type of tangibles for 2020 in the presidential election. And I agree with him, like so many others. But no, I think that what the judge is saying, and we're talking about the $20 bill with Harriet Tubman, I get what his point was, is that can a black man get some acknowledgement first? Because black men are considered, the threat in this country. Yes, when you see these police shootings, when you see police brutality, it's mostly black males that are getting pulled over and getting shot at. Of course, our women are in danger too when they get pulled over, but a man is looked at as, the aggressor, and also, I guess, the serious threat. So I understood what he was trying to say in that. I didn't think what he was saying was wrong. And again, I think that when we talk about the direction of this country right now, when we look at this Me Too movement, when we look at this feminization of the black male in the media, and I got to do a video on that too, because did you know that they're actually doing a Cinderella movie with a gay man playing the fairy godmother, a black man, Billy Porter. He's the guy that wore the dress at the Oscars. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in another video. I didn't want to deal with that right now. But yeah, I can understand and see what Judge is talking about. So I didn't have a problem with that. But at any rate, can anyone else be on a $20 bill? Can a black man be on there? Black man not being considered. I understood what Judge is saying. Yeah, it is kind of shady that they would take a black female over a black male, even though that black female, Harriet Tubman, was a rioter. I mean, but what I didn't like that Charlemagne said in further that debate is when he said, Judge Joe Brown would have been someone that Harriet Tubman would have shot. Thought that was highly inappropriate for him to say that, because truth be told, Judge Joe Brown, as I stated earlier, has not only a wealth of wisdom, he's been in the streets before. He's been active in the community. He takes his time out even today. I don't even know whether he gets paid or not. I don't think so. But, he took his time out to be on my radio program, on my YouTube channel, excuse me, and not get paid a dime. He didn't ask for any money. He just said, how much time do you need? To do that just willingly and talk and provide his wealth and information. He doesn't have to do that. He goes on We All Be News all the time. And I know he doesn't pay Brother Hurd, and shout out to Ron Hurd, anything for that. He doesn't charge him anything for that. He didn't charge me for anything. So to say, he would have been shot, that was highly inappropriate and disrespectful. And truth be told, Charlemagne, the way that you guys have tap danced and a little bit on the program would lead me to think, what if I said that Harriet Tubman would have shot you? You gotta watch yourself, man. I know you don't really care. I know Charlemagne doesn't care about stuff like that, but you're coming out against someone who is an elder in the community. And I don't agree with everything Judge Joe Brown says. Let's get that straight. I'll say this. I don't agree with. I arrived at my spot. Yeah, I don't agree with everything Judge Joe Brown says. I certainly don't agree with him on the Michael Jackson stuff, because I know he's been going hard on Michael. I don't agree with that. I think that he doesn't know all of the facts sometimes on that situation. But Judge Joe Brown is a guy with a lot of bravado and machismo. So I guess he thinks of Michael as not being the most masculine man in the room. Especially when you talk about see him wearing pajamas, going to court. Although, truth be told, my understanding from that incident was that Michael was actually coming from the hospital, and he had to immediately leave and go to court, or else he would have been thrown in jail on contempt. So I understood that aspect of it. But, Charlemagne and Envy and Angela Yee were wrong for that. And certainly when we live in America, when we look at, the state of the black man, the state of the black family, Judge has a point about manhood and how manhood should be promoted. His motto is promoting manhood and protecting womanhood, protecting women. He talks about that. So I don't think he's against Harriet Tubman. And I don't think, and if I listen carefully, I think what he's just saying is, let the men lead first. And, our men are the ones who are looked at as the bigger threat. I get that. So, anyway, guys, that's just my thoughts. You guys are free to leave a comment. You're free to disagree with me. If you don't think that Judge was correct. But I didn't think Charlemagne and those guys were right either. But, he should be careful when he talks about things like that, about, well, Harriet Tubman would have shot Judge Joe Brown. No, I don't think that's appropriate. So, at any rate, guys, just give me a holler. I'll see you all later. Peace and love.